You said I'm ready, you know?
If it's on, it's on.
It's on, but you know,
That's what's up.
it's real life, so
Word.
scripture study.
Really?
With that,
We didn't even do my prayer.
yeah, scripture. I thought I left.
You are very dirty. You say it's on.
Fire, close the door.
So we say shalom, shalom. To everybody. Shalom. To our viewing audience that's listening worldwide, because we're going out all over. You know, we want to say shalom to you all, scattered to the four corners of the earth. And we're here at Israel now. And tonight we're just going to continue to go through the book of Genesis. We just going to tap on some different things. And we'll start in Genesis 3, and as always, your input is always welcome. And so we'll get started, bring it out. Generally go for about an hour, and see what we can come up with.
Hallelujah.
So we'll read it Genesis 1.
All right.
3 and 1.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which Yahweh Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, as Elohim said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die.
All right. So here we are. We got Hasatan in action. We got the serpent coming up, and he's showing himself, and it says that he is very subtle. So he's crafty. He's real sly in the things that he do. And so what we have to do as the children of Israel is we got to recognize these things. One of the tricks of the enemy, he always gets us with what? It's the three things that they always say that he comes in and attacks us with is the lust of the eyes, the lust of the, y'all know that script? The lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and what? The pride of life. Those are three areas where he always comes. And so when we look at this here, and we see him and his craftiness, let's see what I couldn't even get past that. It was like I wanted to touch on some other things that was in this chapter, but when I looked at this, the subtleness of him and how he comes in and how he is so discord and all the things that he'll do to manipulate us into thinking or to acting a certain way because of a situation. So when we look at 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and 11, and we're just going to look at some other ways of things that he does and how we have to be aware of and prepare ourselves accordingly.
All right, so 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices.
All right, so again, we have to prepare ourselves. We have to understand that he's gonna come to us certain ways. He understands us, he knows what our interests are, and he's gonna come in that avenue. If you got a drinking problem, he's gonna try to attack you there. If you got a sexual addiction, he's gonna go there and he's gonna meet you there. Whatever it is, he's gonna get you there. If you got a lustful problem, the eyes, he's gonna get you. You always attracted to what you see. So we have to be aware of those tactics. And so let's look at 2 Corinthians 11, 3 and 4.
Second Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. But I fear, lest by any means, as the serpent beguiled Eve through his subtlety, so your mind should be corrupted from this simplicity that is in Mashiach. Verse 4. For if he that cometh preaches another Yahweh, whom we have not preached, or if ye received another spirit, which ye have not received, or another gospel, which ye have not accepted, ye might well bear with him.
All right. So in this other translation of it, it reads like this. It says, but I fear that somehow your pure, undivided devotion to Hamashiach will be corrupted, just as Eve was deceived by the cunning ways of the serpent. And then it says, in verse 4, it says, you happily put up with whatever anyone tells you, even if they preach a different Yahweh than the one which we preach, or a different kind of spirit than the one you receive, or a different kind of gospel than the one that you believe. So when we see that, it says you happily receive another Yahweh. How is it that the scripture can even say that? What do you see out here today that where they accepted a different Yahweh than the one that was preached in this script?
Jesus Christ.
In the Christian church. You see that. You see that they happily accept that. You know what I mean? They put this picture of this image in there, and they told you all about, he's here to die for your sins. But this here is a totally different Yahweh than whom they were speaking of in the scripture. The scripture says, Yahweh himself, he said, I came to do what my Father's will. Nothing else. He said, everything that I teach and I speak is my Father's will. So then they come and then they tell you this. It's say, now this JC that they recognize now, they give him a birthday. It's December the 25th. That's not in the scripts.
Right.
You know what I mean? They say he rose on Easter Sunday. That's not in the script. It says Yahweh himself, he said, I'm only going to give you one sign, and that's the sign of Jonah. So 3 full days, 3 full nights, I'm going to be in the grave. And that's the only sign that was given, but somehow they misconstrued it, got it up to now he's risen on Sunday morning on the Lord's Day. That's not the Lord's Day. What did Yahweh say? I'm Lord of the what?
Of the Shabbat.
Of the Shabbat. So they messed this all up. But the people, they happily receive it. You see them on church on Sunday, and they raising so-called holy hands and saying that they're blessed. But they have to come into the understanding of who and what the scripts say and who he is according to the word. So Dad, you got anything that you want to hit on that?
Oh no, they like what you're saying is true. It's almost as if too, as I was speaking to the Christian sister a few minutes ago, right next door. It's almost as if they look at us like we are teaching another Yahweh Shai.
Right.
Which we are. So we both feel like we got that scripture right.
Right.
But who's right according to the book? We leave it up for the scriptures to answer. So this whole book, this whole book is based on Torah, the Most High, of course, and Torah, the prophets, and Hamashiach. You know what I mean? Those are like the elements of this book. So when you start looking at the way that they teach, Hamashiach is totally off from what he came to teach. It's totally off from what the prophets taught. It's totally off from what Torah teaches. This is what he's dealing with in Genesis. It's totally off when you get to the tree in which the Most High said, do not eat from this tree, right?
Right.
But then Satan come and say, he didn't say don't eat from this tree. He didn't say don't do this. So it's kind of like the same significance when you got religion and truth. It's like, nah, we can teach it this way, or he didn't say don't say this, or he didn't say not to keep a feast or to keep a feast. So now people are running with their own understanding and they're ignorant of Satan's devices.
Right.
You know what I mean, in a nutshell. So yeah, like that's kind of how I see it though. When you look at that verse, they feel like they got it right, but only the Bible, precept upon precept, is gonna let us know who has the understanding, who has it all right.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's some more stuff in Genesis though that, you know what I mean, we gonna get to, because it's kind of like we always got to go back to the beginning. This is the last thing I'll say. We always got to go back to the beginning, even when dealing with scriptures. You know, when they say line upon line, precept upon precept. Well, when Hamashiach himself came and said something in regards to marriage, how do we know if he's telling the truth or not? We go back to the beginning. When the serpent came and said, you can eat of this tree, we got to go back to what the Father said. You can and can't do.
Right.
But if we don't, then we ignorant of his devices and we get caught up.
So even with that, the scripture says that when she went, the serpent came to her and he said, you shall not surely die. Meaning, like, you're not really gonna die like instantaneously. It's not, are you really sure? So when she contemplated that and she sat there and she took that in and then she ate of the fruit. But Yah said in Genesis 2:17, he said, the day you eat of it, you will die. So was Yah telling the truth? Because when Adam ate it and Eve ate the fruit, did they die within that day?
Spiritual death.
You say a spiritual death? Okay. Let's look at 2 Peter 2:3-8. Because Yah is always going, well, everything that Yah speaks is the truth. No matter, if Yah speaks it, it's the truth. You will, he said, you will, the day you eat of it, you will surely die. 2 Peter 2:3-8. 2 Peter 3. Okay, I said 2:3.
Okay, yeah. The book of 2 Peter, chapter 3 and verse 8. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with Yahweh as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day.
All right. So he says, be not ignorant that one day with Yahweh is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like one day. And he said, in the day that you eat of it, you will surely die. Now, how old was Adam when he died? Let's look at Genesis 5:5.
What we at now?
Genesis 5:5.
The book of Genesis, chapter 5 and verse 5. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died.
So in the eyes of Yah, he died that day. Because he lived 900 and what?
30 years.
930 years. So in that same day, because a day is 1,000 years, he ended up dying in that day. You know what I mean? So Yah, of course, what he said was true. You know what I mean? So we got to take him serious and look at it like this, because the judgment wasn't executed right then and there expediently. It might give you, say, you know, oh, you won't surely die. They might have thought they was cool for a minute, like, shoot, well, we good, you know, we ate of it. Now, we got kicked out, but we good, you know what I mean? No, you're not good, because in that day, you still die. You know what I mean? And that just because the punishment doesn't come swiftly, doesn't mean that you got away with anything. And this is what we gotta understand that. And this is why you have to fear Yah the way that you should, and be like, look, I know if I cross this line, you know how your parents used to tell you, like, you know, hey, don't you go down there to the end of the street. You go down to the end of the street, you get as close as you can to the edge to look over, but you know, you don't want to push it no further. You know what I mean? So we gotta understand where God's coming from, and respect the game.
And another thing too, when, you know, to touch up on it, he actually, like I said, going back to the beginning is always key, because he actually allowed us to live that day out, just like it was supposed to be. If you notice, nobody actually lived that full day out. Nobody. I think Methuselah was probably the oldest, about 960 something.
Yeah.
Nobody in the world since the time that he commanded them, you know, not to eat of the tree, and so on and so forth. Nobody lived that day out. Do anybody know when we will live that day out?
Yahshuah come back in 1,000-year reign.
Absolutely. That 1,000-year reign, we will be able to live that year out just like we were supposed to in the garden. Yep. So that's something else to look at.
It's like we're trying to get back to the beginning. You know what I mean? Like going with the tree when he comes back in that 1,000 years. So let's pick up again here in Genesis 3, 11 and 12. Yeah, I'm just bouncing through.
Oh, okay, I got you. All right, the book of Genesis 3 and verse 11. And he said, who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? And the man said, the woman who thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat.
Okay, so we know the story. We know that they partook of this of the fruit, and now he's telling them. He said, and then now this is just in my mindset. Now when Adam, you know, he talked with the Most High. The Most High came through daily, and he heard his voice, and they communed with each other. And then all of a sudden, they sinned, and they did something that they shouldn't have done. And now, when sin entered into the world, it turned it upside down. So now, when he hears this voice, this is just my thought. I'm just thinking that, you know, when the children of Israel, when they heard the voice after they had committed the sin with the calf and all of that, and Moses came down and he was talking to him, they was like, look, no, Moshe, you talk to him. Right. We don't want to hear that voice again. Whereas before sin entered, it was like he could have been like talking to the Most High, and that voice wasn't like a boom to him. But all of a sudden, he's like, where are you? You know what I'm saying? He heard the voice, and now the scripture said he was scared. You know what I mean? And this, so I'm looking at it like now this boom of a voice is coming through, and that relationship that once was now severed. It's no longer what it was when before the sin came into the world. And now it's like, okay, so now we have here, and he says here, the Most High is speaking to him. He said, who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not? And this is the response to Adam. And he said, and the man said, the woman that thou gavest to be with me, she gave me the tree, and she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. So automatically, he was like, he heard that voice, he was like,
She didn't.
she did it. This woman, that wife that you made, she did this. I wasn't really in on this,
Right.
she did this, you know what I mean? So now we passing the blame.
Right.
But now look at where the position where he just put his wife at. You know what I mean? Now your wife is standing there like, looking up at the Most High, like what? Like, what? The serpent did it. He did it. So everybody's passing the blame, but the commandment was to who?
Adam.
Yeah.
It was to Adam. So we gotta man up to who we are. Go ahead, bro.
But how old, I don't know if anybody know, how old is the earth? Like how,
Man, that's a good one.
now I'm gonna tell you why I asked,
Okay.
because I always thought this. If 1,000 years is a day with the Most High, and he rested on the seventh day,
Right.
what's the chances of us being around for 6 years in the seventh year in his mind, in his state? Will he have like a Sabbath, a 7,000 year Sabbath for himself? See what I'm saying?
Right.
Like on his seventh day. And could that be maybe a clue of when things gonna start really changing? Since we don't know how old the earth is. He told us to rest on the seventh day.
Right.
We'll never see 1,000 years with him like this. So his week might not, we ain't lived a week with him. Ain't nobody lived a week with him. He might be on, day 5 as far as we know,
Right.
day 6.
Right.
Just curiosity.
Yeah. I mean, it's something to look at. I wouldn't want to be the one on record saying what year we in, because it's a whole lot to mesh with it. The observation of it makes sense to be that. And then when you look at the whole end all be all, when it's like the 1,000-year reign, will symbolize, more so like the 8th day. We know the 8th day got a significance with circumcision. So it's like we would be being circumcised during that 1,000 year, which would be considered like the 8th day if we placed it there. So it's something that's been surfacing over. I haven't been the one that try to figure it out because there's so many scripts you got to put with it, and you know what I mean. But it is a good observation, like where you going at, because I'm like in the same lane though, like with
Like
it.
if he told us to rest on the seventh day, on his day of 7, what is he going to do, or what's going to happen, or what, you know?
Right.
Is the trumpet going to be blown then?
Right.
No.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean,
Just a thought.
Yeah. I mean, all of that makes you say, you know what I mean? Makes you wonder, So with this, we have the passing of the blame. And Adam like, no, I ain't had nothing to do with this. Eve, the devil made me do it. The serpent, he beguiled me. So let's look at some of this here, the passing of the blame. Go to Job 31 and 33. So everybody pretty much know the story of Job and how he was tested and how he lost everything, and then he recovered it. The Most High rewarded him back with, all that he had many times over. I don't want to say a number. I can't remember what number it was. If it was 7 times, 7-fold or whatnot. But he rewarded him all of those things back. And so Job in 31, he's looking back over his life, and then he was saying the things that he had done to where he was keeping the laws and whatnot. But yet, in this one verse, when I came across it, I was just like, man, so let's read 33.
Book of Job, chapter 31 and verse 33. If I cover my transgressions as Adam, by hiding my iniquity in my bosom.
So he said, out of all the stuff that he did, and he was saying like, I did this, and I fed the poor, and I did this, and if I did anything wrong, he said, but if I had covered my transgressions as Adam, and hidden my iniquity in my bosom. So this here, of course, all the scriptures, they all revert back to scripts. So with Job, when I looked at that and Job was saying this, I was like, man, it brings out that Adam, this here was a very, very significant thing because he was, of course, being the first person. And now we have, Shalom, man, I lost my train of thought real quick. Yeah, with Adam being the first person, and then, so now we have Job here reciting that, and we're looking at, and everybody's got, because even Peter and them, they pull some things out of what Adam did and how it affected them. And so I mean, like the scriptures say, all these things were written for examples for us. So we got to look at that and say, like, are we going, when we confronted with whatever situation, and are we going to be the one to pass the blame, or are we going to be like one of our righteous kings that stood up and said, yo, I did this. You know what I mean? It's all on me. So again, we'll look at a wicked person that did the exact same thing, but he went even a little further. I mean, he kind of got a little indignant with it. Let's go to let's go to 1 Samuel 15. We'll read that. 1 Samuel 15, and we'll start verse 1.
1 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 1. Samuel also said unto Saul, Yahweh sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken thou unto the voice of the words of Yahweh. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way, when he came up from Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have.
And do what?
And utterly destroy all that they have. And spare them not, but slay both man and women, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass.
Okay, so we know this story. Everybody familiar with the story of this, with Saul. And so then, let's drop down to verse 9.
Verse 9. But Saul and the people spared Agag, and the beast, and the best of the sheep, and of the oxen, and of the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them, but everything that was vile and refused, that they destroy utterly.
All right, so we have a simple instruction, just like how it was in the beginning. He told him, don't eat of the fruit of knowledge. And then he says, okay, so then we look at Saul and the prophet Samuel. He came to him and he told him, like, look, go and destroy all of the Amalekites. Saul got it up in his mind. He was like, cool, all right. He gathered the people together. They went out, and then they go to war with him. And then Saul brings it upon himself, and he says he spared Agag and the best of the sheep and the oxen, the fatlings and the lambs, and all that he considered was good. Here we are again, a blatant refusal of doing what Yah says. So where is that going to put us? If we know the law, we know where we stand, we know what Yah says. So it's like, it's either you're going to do what you want to do, or you're going to do what he says do. I mean, that's your only choice. You either do what he says, or you do what you want to do. But then it's going to be a consequence for everything that we do. So how you going to weigh it in the balance? So in verse, we're going to drop down to verse, let's start at 14.
Verse 14. And Samuel said, what meaneth then this bleating of the sheep in mine ears, and the lowing or lowing of the oxen which I hear? And Saul said, they have brought them from the Amalekites, and from the Amalekites. For the people spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen.
Okay, who spared them?
The people
Okay,
spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen to sacrifice unto Yahweh, thy Elohim. And the rest we have utterly destroyed.
all right. So here, Samuel, he's now confronting Saul. They done supposed to have destroyed all of the Amalekites. They come back, and Saul says, and he says, you know, we utterly destroyed them. But then Samuel, he was like, look, why do I hear these oxen and all these lambs and all this, you know, what is this? He, you know, I gave you specific instructions from the Most High.
Right.
And he said, here we go, passing the blame. He said, what? For the people spared the best of the sheep. He was like, I had nothing to do with that. He said, the people did this. Passing the blame. Then in 16, it says, then Samuel said unto Saul, stay, and I will tell thee what Yahweh hath said to me this night. And he said unto him, say on. In 17, and Samuel said, when thou was little in thine own sight, was thou not made the head of the tribes of Israel and anointed? Was thou not made the head of the tribes of Israel, and Yahweh anointed thee king over Israel? So the question is this: when you were small in your own sight, when you like David, when he was on the backside of those mountains and he was dealing with the lion and the bear, and he was over the sheep and just doing his own thing. He wasn't looking for a title. He wasn't looking for nothing. He was just protecting the sheep. When he was little in his own sight, he was doing all right. When Saul, before he became a king and got a title, before I became a moray, or before he became a pastor, or before this person became leader of the praise team, you was doing all right when you was just in the pews. And you was all right when you was in the audience and you was getting an understanding. But now you got puffed up and because you got a position. And see, a lot of us as Israel, we got to realize just because you don't have a quote unquote position, that doesn't mean that you're not valuable. But we get caught up in ourselves and we say like, well, if I ain't gonna teach, if I can't teach, then I ain't gonna be a part. Or if the scripture come across and it's a different interpretation than what you perceived it to be, and then you say, now I'm out of fellowship with them. Because now this word has come across and I ain't never seen it like that. I ain't never heard that before. So now I'm a step away. But when you was little in your own sight, when you was studying on your own, when you first came into this truth, and then now you studying and you reading it, and the Most High is speaking to you, and now you can get the understanding of the word. But then when you get some understanding, and now you want to be higher than what you ought to be, and then you got to weigh this out. What are you gonna do? Because like Saul, he got puffed up, and he said, well, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bring back the oxen and the best of everything, and then I'm gonna sacrifice it to the Most High. When the Most High said, I don't want that. Let's read down to 20. We'll see what the Most High said that he wanted. Keep reading.
Verse 18, and Yahweh sent thee on a journey and said, go and utterly destroy the sinners. These words are small.
The sinners of the Amalekites.
Oh, the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. Verse 19, wherefore then didst thou not obey the voice of Yahweh, but didst fly upon the spoil, and didst evil in the sight of Yahweh. Verse 20, and Saul said unto Samuel, yea, I have obeyed the voice of Yahweh.
So right here, he was like, look, what are you talking about, Samuel? I obeyed the voice of Yahweh. He was like, you got it wrong. I'm telling you, I did what Yah told me to do. Keep reading.
And have gone the way which Yahweh sent me, and have bought Agag, the king of Amalek, to have utterly destroyed the Amalekites.
He said, I brought back the king. I've done what he said. That's totally, I don't know what he heard or what he thought, but that's not what Samuel the prophet told him to do. Keep reading.
21, but the people took the spoil, sheep and oxen, the chief of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto Yahweh and Elohim, or Yahweh Elohim in Gilgal.
All right, so he said, look, I ain't had nothing to do with that. The people did that. The people did that. So he's putting that blame off on somebody else. So Samuel, keep reading in 22.
And Samuel said, Has Yahweh as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, as in obeying the voice of Yahweh?
So he said, so does Yah have great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, something that he didn't require of them at this time from these animals, from these Amalekites, as in obeying the voice of Yahweh. So again, it's, behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of the rams. So in other words, he said, look, all you got to do is just do what I say do, and you'll be all right. But when we get caught up in ourselves, then that's when we go astray. We start looking at ourselves and thinking that we higher than we ought to be, or whatever the case. And the whole thing is we gotta humble down. We gotta humble down and do not despise small beginnings. A lot of things, great things happen with small beginnings. Who is it? Zerubbabel, when he was building the temple the second time, and they was coming out, and I think that's Zechariah. I think it's what 4:10. Is that? Let me see. Let me turn that real quick. Zechariah, I think it's 4:10.
Start at 9.
Yeah.
All right, Zechariah chapter 4, and start at 8. Verse 8. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house. His hand shall also finish it, and thou shalt know that Yahweh of hosts has sent me unto you. For who has despised the day of small things? For they shall rejoice and shall see the plummet of the hand of Zerubbabel with those 7. They are the eyes of Yahweh which run to and fro through the whole earth.
So here with Zerubbabel, he was building the temple. He got the permission to go back and to build the temple, and for a while it got stopped. But he had already started laying the foundation, and he was in the small beginnings of it. And then they said, and this is why the Most High was like, look, you're gonna finish it. Your hands is gonna finish it because you started this thing, and it's gonna be a great thing. And then as you read over in Ezra, they had one of the greatest Passovers at that time. You know what I mean? But it was a small beginning. So when we look at Saul here, and he's so defiant. And everybody knows the scripture, though, the first part of it, that rebellion is what? Is the sin of what? Of witchcraft. And we all got that part. But when I read that second part, I was like, whoa, this is heavy too. You know what I mean? So let's read 22 and 23.
Okay. 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22. And Samuel said, Has Yahuwah as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of Yahweh? Behold, to obey is better than to sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. Mm-hmm. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry, because thou hast rejected the word of Yahweh. He has also rejected thee from being king.
All right. So when I looked at that, and I was like, man, rebellion, that stiff-necked stuff that, where you just always resist what's right. And they said that's the sin of witchcraft. But then it goes on and it talks about stubbornness is as iniquity. And we know that it's sins and transgressions and iniquity, and they all kin to each other. But they all sin, and then transgressions to supersede that. And then you got iniquity that'll supersede that. And he said that iniquity that I know that I'm wrong and I really don't care, and I don't mind if you see it, that's iniquity. And then he was like, that is idolatry. Stubbornness is as idolatry. So when you think of a person that's set in their way and they upset because they're not the ones to sit up front. See, I wasn't the first choice to be here. You know what I mean? And I was cool sitting in the pews, but when certain people just feel a certain way, and if they can't be the teacher, then they just disfellowship themselves. But that stubbornness that they might have, that's the sin of idolatry, because now you're telling yourself that, I should be the one up front. Just like what Lucifer said, he said where he was going to supersede the Most High, and everybody's going to bow down to him. That's stubbornness, and that's idolatry. So we have to really watch how we come across to our brothers and our sisters, and so that we can all stay together. Because this here, that stubbornness and jockeying for position, that shouldn't be. I mean, we should be content in whatsoever state that we are in. It's one thing, like when we first came into this truth, it was all brotherly love. It was all shalom. It didn't matter if you was whatever group you was affiliated with, and whatever group this person was affiliated with. If you happen to see somebody with their tassels on, you'd be like, shoot, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Now it's totally separated. Everybody's looking and got themselves want to be put up on this pedestal. I'm officer so-and-so, and what? You know what I mean? Where do we lose all of our camaraderie at? You know what I mean? So this here is it just made me think of this here over this today. This here, I couldn't really even get past. The famous verse in Genesis 3:15, and right. The Messianic prophecy of it. I couldn't even get down to that part because I was like, man, I was looking at this here, and I'm seeing like who passed the buck, who said put the blame on someone else, and then what did all of that entail? When you look at Saul and how he was, the stubbornness of him, that rebellious spirit that he had, you know what I mean? And he was so defiant with Samuel, like, look, I ain't do it, the people did it. We got to stop passing the blame. We got to look at, so let's take a look real quick at a righteous person. Let's go to 2 Samuel 12. Samuel 12, 1 through 13. I can check the time to see what time we started, because I want to try
It's about 7:15, somewhere around there.
All right, we'll wrap this up real quick. We're gonna read 1 through 13.
Okay.
And then this here wrap this up.
2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 1. And Yahweh sent Nathan unto David, and he came unto him and said unto him, there were 2 men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing, save one little ewe lamb, which he had brought and nourished up. And it grew up together with him and with his children. It did eat of his own meat and drink of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd, to dress for a wayfaring man that was to come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man that was come to him. Verse 5, and David's anger was greatly kindled against the man, and he said to Nathan, as Yahweh liveth, the man that has done this thing shall surely die, and he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. And Nathan said unto David, Thou art the man. Thus says Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, I anoint thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul. And I gave thee thy master's house, and thy master's wives unto thy bosoms, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given thee such and such things. Wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of Yahweh, to do evil in his sight? Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with a sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon.
All right. So here we know this story. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. But sometimes our sins, sometimes they have to be brought back to our remembrance, as if we don't remember what we did. Now, the prophet, he's coming back to David, and he's telling him, he was like, listen, you gave him the whole little parable of the traveler and all this stuff that was coming, and he told him, like, look, you are the man. And David, when he heard this, it pricked him at his heart. David was moved by this. Let's see. So he was so moved by this, his response to it is in Psalms 51 and 4, 1 through 4. We're gonna go there. We're gonna read that.
Book of Psalms, chapter 51, and verse 1. Have mercy upon me, O Elohim, according to thy loving kindness, according unto the multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgressions. Verse 2. Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Against thee only have I sinned, and done this evil in thy sight, that thou mightest be justified when thou speakest, and be clear when thou judgest.
All right. So here we know that David, he slept with Bathsheba, killed Uriah, did all these things. He had a child out of that situation. Punishment was definitely coming his way, as we didn't continue reading in Samuel, but he did end up killing his child. And he told him that, the sword will never depart from your house. And so when him taking the different wives, he also told him that, you did it in secretly, but I'm going to do it to you openly before the sun, that even his own sons slept with his wife. I mean, he had a lot of stuff go on in his house that you wouldn't wish on your enemy. You know what I mean? And it was like, so he also told him, he said, what did he say? He said, David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against Yahweh. Nathan said unto David, Yahweh hath put away thy sin, and thou shalt not die. He told him, I'm going to spare your life, even though according to law, you should be dead. But the scripture says that it also refers to David as a man after Yah's own heart. And how is that? How is that he's a man after his own heart after he's done all of these things that he has done? Forget when we look at Psalms 51, he wasn't the one who was saying like, let me hide my sin from him. When it was brought to his attention and he said the man that done this thing, he should be killed. King David, he was like, look, my sin is ever present before you. He said, against you and you only have I sinned. And this is where we have to get at. We have to be able to say, like, look, if I ain't the teacher, or if I'm not this, or if I'm not that, if I'm not over the praise ministry, I'm cool with that. But let me get back to a rightful place and a right standing with you, that I can be useful for the kingdom. And that's where we strive to be at. And it says, for I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sins is ever before me. Against thee only have I sinned and done this evil in thy sight, that thou mightest be justified when thou speakest, and be clear when you judge. So that's where the standing is that we want to be. We want to be in clear standing with God when He pronounces judgment on us. We want to be an open book to Him, and that's all that we can do. You know, you got anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, look at verse 9 real quick in 2 Samuel 12. Look at verse 9.
Okay.
Let's just go back to the story and I mean keep it in mind of what he said to him. Like verse 9 says, wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of Yahweh to do evil in his sight? Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, right?
Mm-hmm.
But whose sword did he say he did it with? And I slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. That's a discreet way of trying to cover up what you did. Because everybody is going to naturally look at Ammon like, it was them who killed Uriah, not even knowing that he the one who set it up.
Right.
Put him on that front line, and all they see now is, we war with Ammon. Ammon killed Uriah, got him out of here. But it was Dawid, it was a devised plan for him to cover up the transgression. It was like he tried to cover it up two ways. He tried to cover up the fact that he slept with his wife.
Right.
Oh, I'm gonna kill him so he don't find out that I did this thing. Nobody find out. So that when everybody do their research, it just line up to be my child and not none of his or whatever, right?
Right.
So he killed him, get that out the way, and cover it up that way. And then try to use Ammon, who they was already warring with, to cover up his, you know what I mean, what he did to Uriah. So it's just like, yeah, it's to me, man, you know, all this stuff is lining up with what you're saying, man. Going back to the garden though.
Right.
Going back to the garden, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, so in all of that, it's just that the whole passing the blame thing, that just got me, it just made me think of some stuff, and I was like, man, you know, we got, you know, the scripture says that how the serpent is subtle, and he's real crafty, and it can take the slightest little thing that'll mess up a whole congregation, you know what I mean? And because you let this creep in, or you let that creep in, or I had a fallout with my brother, I ain't like the way they look at me, they didn't acknowledge me in this way, and you know, and now you got all this little stuff in you, and that little crafty stuff, like you say, the small foxes spoil the vine. You know, it's just the little things that might take place that just separate a whole congregation. And here in Israel now, we don't want that. We want to be solidified. When we say that, you know, I'm truly my brother's keeper. I'm looking out for my brother. I'm looking out for my sister. We want to really be about that. We don't want to be at home talking about, oh, this brother, he did this, and they ain't got this, and they ain't got that. You know what I mean? All the backbiting and all of that stuff. We gotta be doers of this word and love one another with true love. So, you know, with that, I mean, that's pretty much what I had today. I just wanted to bring that out to the people. But one last verse, and that's Proverbs 28 and 13.
Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 13. He that covers his sins shall not prosper, but whosoever confess and forsake them shall have mercy.
So that's where we want to be at. We just want to, you know, confess our sins to the Most High, let it be known, whatever it is, and let's get it right. Because we don't have time. If you wanted to do something that was contrary to the law, you should have did that a year ago. You know what I'm saying? Because now it's closer to his coming back is closer than when we first believed, and so let's just squash all the stuff, whatever ill things that might be going on with different people, and if you got to hug up on your brother or on your sister and tell them, hey, yo, I'm sorry for this, that, and the other. Let's just do that, and let's just get it right, and all come back into this truth like how it was when we first came into it, and you know, I just wanted to put that out there to the viewing audience, to everybody that's here today. And that, we say Shabbat Shalom I said Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, Shalom to the listening audience. And, you know how we do. If there's any questions or anything, any comments afterwards, we can get into that as well.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.